The leather-bound diary felt like fire in my hands as I read the words that shattered 30 years of family mythology. Only trust the youngest. Gemma is the only one who truly loved me, not my money. The funeral guests had barely left. My siblings were already arguing over furniture, and here I sat in Grandma Alina's study, discovering that every cruel word she'd spoken to me had been a performance. But the question that made my hands tremble wasn't why she hid her true feelings. It was whether I had the courage to reveal what else her diary contained about the family who thought they'd fooled her. My name is Gemma, and I'm 30 years old. Sitting in the dusty study of my grandmother's Brooklyn brownstone, surrounded by the remnants of her 91 years, I felt like an archaeologist who'd just discovered that history had been written backwards. The woman who'd called me the family disappointment at every gathering had left behind a truth that would detonate my family's carefully constructed delusions. Gemma, stop wasting time with those old books. My sister Victoria called from the parlor. We need to tag the valuable items before the estate sale. The valuable items. If only they knew they were walking past fortunes while grabbing brass candlesticks. 2 hours earlier, we buried Eleanor Prescott in the family plot, her children and grandchildren performing grief like they performed affection, adequately, but without conviction. My mother Catherine had dabbed at dry eyes. My Uncle Charles had checked his phone during the eulogy. My cousins and siblings had whispered about property values and auction estimates before the dirt had settled. And I'd stood at the edge as always. The family disappointment, the one who'd wasted her potential by becoming a teacher, the one who visited Grandma every Sunday despite her cutting remarks, who brought her groceries despite being told I'd never amount to anything, who sat through brutal criticisms because somewhere, somehow, I convinced myself that showing up meant something. April 15th, 2019. I read from the diary, my voice barely a whisper. Family dinner. Watch them perform for me like trained seals. Catherine fishing for compliments about her latest charity board. Charles dropping hints about his son's Harvard acceptance. Victoria parading her engagement ring like a prize. And Gemma, sweet, stubborn Gemma, sitting quietly while I cut her down again. She winced when I called her aimless, but stayed. Always stays. The others would vanish if they knew the trust fund was gone. Trust fund. Gone. I flipped back through pages, my heart racing. January 3rd, 2018. Lost everything in the Madoff scheme years ago. Have been living on Social Security and the secret rental income from the New Jersey properties no one knows about. It amuses me to watch them circle like vultures around a carcass that's already been picked clean. Only Gemma comes without calculating. Only Gemma brings me flowers because she knows I like yellow roses, not because she's marking her territory. Gemma, my brother Marcus barged in. Mom wants to know if you found the will yet. We need to get this moving. Still looking, I managed, sliding the diary under some papers. He glanced around dismissively. Can't believe she kept all this junk. Thank God we can finally sell this place and be done with it. After he left, I locked the door and kept reading, each entry rewriting my understanding of the past decade. December 23rd, 2020. Christmas dinner was a masterpiece of manipulation. Told Gemma her cookies were pedestrian while praising Victoria's store-bought pie. Gemma made those cookies from my mother's recipe, the one she asked about months ago, thinking I'd forgotten. I haven't forgotten anything. Not how she held my hand during chemo when the others were too busy. Not how she snuck me real food when the doctors had me on that horrible diet. Not how she's the only one who calls just to chat, not to probe about inheritance. My hands shook. All those Sunday visits when she torn apart my life choices, my career, my apartment, my boyfriend. I'd absorbed it all, thinking love meant enduring cruelty from those who were supposed to care for you. June 8th, 2021. The test is working. The meaner I am to Gemma, the greedier the others become. They think my cruelty means she's out of the will, so they grovel harder. Charles actually tried to convince me to sign a power of attorney today. Victoria suggested I might be too old to manage my affairs. Catherine priced my jewelry when she thought I was napping. But Gemma, she brought me soup and sat through my tirade about her wasting her life on other people's children. If only she knew she's the only one I trust with anything. A knock rattled the door. Gemma, open up. Victoria's voice, sharp with entitlement. We need to inventory that room. In a minute. I called back, frantically flipping pages. November 30th, 2022. Final will sign today. Lawyer thinks I'm insane. Maybe I am, but I've watched this family for 90 years. I know who they are. Catherine sells affection like she sells real estate, calculated and overpriced. Charles has the emotional depth of a puddle. The grandchildren, except Gemma, are carbon copies of their parents' greed. Only Gemma loves without a price tag. Only Gemma would mourn me, not my assets. Gemma. This time it was Mom. Stop being selfish. We all have a right to go through our things. I found myself laughing, actually laughing. Selfish. The one who'd spent every Sunday for 5 years being emotionally flayed was selfish. August 2nd, 2023. Last entry before I hide this. Tomorrow I'm telling the family about the inheritance meeting next month. Watch them scramble, watch them fawn, watch them calculate, and watch Gemma stay exactly the same, kind, patient, present. She thinks I hate her. The truth would break her heart. I had to make them think I hated her. It was the only way to know for sure that her love was real. I sat back, overwhelmed. Then I noticed the envelope taped to the back cover, my name written across it in her spidery handwriting. Inside, a key and a note. Bank of New York, Box 472. The real will is there, along with everything that matters. The one they'll find in my desk is theater. Let them read it first. Let them show you who they are. Then decide if they deserve the truth. All my love, and I do mean that, Grandma Eleanor. P.S. The money in the bathroom is real. The one in the living room they're probably fighting over is fake. You're the only one who ever noticed the light was wrong in the copy. My phone buzzed with texts. Mom, stop being dramatic and open the door. Victoria, I called dibs on the china set. Marcus, found paperwork. She was broke. Waste of time. I stood slipping the diary and key into my bag. Outside the door, I could hear them arguing about who deserved what from an inheritance they thought had evaporated. Opening the door, I faced my family. They looked irritated, impatient, already half gone in their minds. Find anything useful? Charles asked curtly. Just old papers, I said. Nothing valuable. Figured. Victoria sighed. Can't believe she was broke. All those years of putting up with her nastiness for nothing. Putting up with her? The words escaped before I could stop them. Oh please, Mom rolled her eyes. Don't pretend you enjoyed those visits. She was horrible to you. Called you the family disappointment every chance she got. At least I showed up, I said quietly. For what? Marcus laughed. To be insulted? You always were a glutton for punishment, Jem. They dispersed through the house like locusts, taking what they could, complaining about the rest. I watched them stuff worthless first editions into Dalmatian boxes, argue over kitchen appliances while ignoring priceless antiques, and gradually declare the whole exercise pointless. I'm done, Victoria announced after an hour. This is depressing. She had nothing but junk and attitude. One by one, they left. Mom took a costume jewelry brooch that was actually worth more than her car. Charles grabbed a reproduction desk that was an original Chippendale. They stripped what they thought had value and abandoned what they couldn't understand. I stayed. As sunset painted the brownstone golden, I walked through rooms that held more than furniture. The kitchen where she taught me to bake, criticizing every measurement while secretly delighted. The garden where she dismissed my flower choices while planting exactly what I'd suggested. The library where she called me ignorant while leaving books specifically for me to find. At her desk, I found the decoy will. As promised, it was theater. Small bequests to everyone, just enough to prevent contesting. The house to be sold, proceeds divided. Exactly what they expected from a woman they thought was bitter and broke. I took a train to Manhattan the next morning, found the bank, used the key. The manager who opened the box looked stunned by its contents. The real will was a masterwork. Not because of the money, though there was plenty hidden in trusts and properties and accounts none of them had known about, but because of the precision of her love and judgment. To me, everything. The brownstone, the properties, the investments, the art they dismissed as worthless. An estimated $18 million that she'd spent decades pretending didn't exist. To them, exactly what they'd shown they deserved. $1,000 tokens, just enough to buy their silence, paired with letters she'd written explaining why. Letters detailing every grasping conversation, every calculated kindness, every time they'd visited with their hands out and their hearts closed. But what broke me was her letter to me. My dearest Gemma, If you're reading this, then you found my diary and discovered the truth. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for every cruel word, every cutting remark, every time I made you feel small. It was the only way I could protect you from them. You see, I learned early that in this family, love is currency and kindness is weakness. Had they known how I treasured your visits, how your presence was the only light in my weeks, they would have poisoned it. They would have convinced you to stay away, told you I was manipulating you, turned my love into a weapon against us both. So I became the grandmother who criticized your cookies while eating every crumb, who mocked your career while bragging about you to strangers, who called you a disappointment while writing your name on everything I owned. You loved me anyway, without agenda, without calculation, without price. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know what it meant to be loved by someone who expected nothing in return? The money is yours because you're the only one who won't be corrupted by it. The house is yours because you're the only one who sees it as a home, not an asset. The art is yours because you're the only one who looked at beauty, not value. But mostly, it's all yours because you're the only one who would have been there anyway, inheritance or no inheritance, cruelty or kindness. You loved me when you thought I didn't love you back. That's the only test that matters. Use it well. Be happy. And know that every harsh word I spoke was a love letter written in reverse, protecting the only grandchild who inherited my heart along with my eyes. With all my love finally spoken aloud, Grandma Eleanor. I sat in that sterile bank room and sobbed, for her, for us, for all the Sunday visits that could have been filled with the warmth she'd hidden behind cold words. The lawyer she designated to handle the estate was prepared for war. She said, "You try to do something foolish like share," he warned. The will is ironclad. They get what she specified, nothing more. What if I don't want it? I asked. Then it goes to the Teachers Foundation she established in your name 5 years ago. Either way, they get nothing more. 5 years ago, when I'd started teaching, when she called it babysitting with a degree, I thought about my family probably planning their meager inheritances already. I thought about Victoria's greed, Marcus's entitlement, Mom's calculations, Uncle Charles's manipulations. I thought about every time they'd show up for birthdays and holidays, eyes scanning for value, hearts closed to connection. And I thought about Grandma Eleanor performing cruelty like a master actress, breaking her own heart to protect mine. "I'll take it," I said quietly. "All of it." The announcement went about as well as expected. They raged, threatened, consulted lawyers. But she'd been right. The will was perfect. Every potential challenge anticipated and blocked. Every loophole closed. They came at me in waves. Victoria with tears. "How could you manipulate a sick old woman?" Marcus with anger. "You were always jealous of us." Mom with guilt. "Family shares, Gemma. Don't be like her." But I had her diary. I had her letters. I had the truth. And eventually, when they realized I wouldn't budge, they showed exactly who they were. The masks fell off completely. No more pretense of family affection. Just pure, entitled rage at the family disappointment had inherited everything while they'd gotten crumbs. I kept the brownstone, restored it carefully, filled it with warmth she'd never been able to show. The Teachers Foundation grew, funded by properties she'd bought in neighborhoods before they gentrified. I taught during the day and managed her legacy at night. On Sundays, I still visit her. I bring yellow roses and sit by her grave, telling her about my week. Sometimes I read entries from her diary aloud, finally hearing the love hidden in the criticism. "Your cookies were perfect," I tell her gravestone. "And you knew it. The family doesn't speak to me anymore. They've rewritten history, made me the villain who stole their birthright. But I have her diary. I have the truth. I have the memory of a woman who loved me so much she was willing to seem hateful to protect that love from those who would have corrupted it. The family disappointment? Maybe, but I was the only one who disappointed them by loving without expectation. And in the end, that wasn't a disappointment at all. It was the whole point.